For the first time, we're doing something new, which is both audio and video.
We want as many life groups as possible to get to talk about this season, which is all about caring for and loving our neighbors and our communities.
And I have a good, fun way to get us started.
Here we go. Here we go, everyone.
I just wanted, Allie, for you to talk about some of the things that get you fired up.
Of course you do. Okay. Well, I've already talked about some of the things that get me fired up in previous seasons, so I'll do some new ones for you, some new hot takes. It gets me really fired up when people don't clean up after themselves at a restaurant. Like, listen, if you've made a mess, you need to clean it up. That's just it's not right. What gets you fired up?
This is simple. I don't like it when people call bad coffee good coffee, or they call good coffee bad coffee, and this happens a lot. Let's see what else gets me fired up. I think, I actually, there's a thing that my family and friends talk about called Jason's loud voice. And normally I'm actually kind of pretty chill and whatever. Yeah. But if an injustice is happening, and we've lived in some places and been in some places where we've seen things. Yeah. My actual literal loud voice comes out. Like I have shouted down people from across the street to like break up a fight, it's not something I'm like wanting to do or choosing to do. It's this passion that takes over. So I would say I get fired up when I see injustice.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense too. I mean, I get fired up if kids are mistreated. Anytime there's a child someone is not treating them well, that will get me fired up too. That will make me angry. And that's when Angry Allie will come out.
Angry Allie.
Angry Allie.
Okay, we've got Angry Allie and Jason's loud voice.
Jason.
And this is actually what we're going to talk about today. It's what do we get passionate about? What are the things that our heart moves for? And we're actually going to go and have a conversation with our friend Jeff Galley. How do we discover the things that we're passionate about so that we can start to love our neighbors and get to know people where we are in our neighborhood? Hey, Jeff, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you.
It's great to have you on again.
It's awesome to be here.
In just a second, we're going to talk all about loving our neighbors. That's actually the theme of like this whole season.
Right.
But first, would you just tell us a little bit more about your role?
Sure.
And then the team that you're part of and what you do together.
Yeah, I'd love to. So I think everybody probably that's watching this, or very well that we have many campuses, Life.Church campuses spread around the country. And then we have one team that's focused on serving and supporting all those campus locations. We refer to that as our central team. Yep. And so that's the team that I work on. So my focus is all about serving and supporting campuses, specifically within what we call life groups and life missions. So anything related to helping our church feel connected, to be in community, have relationships, to follow Jesus together. Yep. And then all the things we do as a church to engage in caring for our communities, locally where our campuses are located, and our global mission involvement as well. So all that kind of stuff.
And then right now, you and your team are leading our whole church to really pay more attention and put more focus and energy into loving our neighbors.
Exactly.
So
that's right.
Why now? And tell me more about that.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly not new. I mean, we didn't come up with the idea of caring for our neighbors.
That wasn't you?
No, it was not me. And it's always been a part of who we are as a church. I mean, we say this all the time. We are the church and we exist for the world. Yeah. And so that's always been a value, but we've never been more committed. We've never been more dedicated to just keeping ourselves and all of us, everybody that's a part of Life.Church, focused on the fact that ultimately the greatest indicator of our maturity as a follower of Jesus is the degree to which we love and care for people. The people around us, the people that are closest to in our lives, the people that we interact with every day, the people that we have to go out of our way to build a relationship with. That's like the leading indicator of what real spiritual maturity is. And so we just are finding ways to reconnect with that reality. Yeah. And I also think too, Jason, another part of it is that committing to care for people is a catalyst to our own maturity. So it's both an indicator, but it's also the pathway, because when I have to arrange my life to actually think about other people, care about other people, not put myself first, that forces me to wrestle with the things that inside of me have to be rewired to be like the way Jesus taught us and showed us to live.
So what I hear you saying is basically that to the extent that we're loving others and being changed by them and really the way that our own desire to try to figure out how to serve them, we can see how well we're following Christ.
Yep, that's right.
So as I hear you talk about that, I just find myself really curious, like, how did you come to seeing it that way and realizing it that way personally?
Well, I've been following Jesus for most of my lifetime. Like all of us, I have had moments where my understanding of actually what it means to follow Jesus has taken like huge steps forward, has evolved like in a massive way.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's happened for me in the last 5 years or so. And one trigger to that was I decided to do a year-long, really super deep dive study into the book of Matthew.
Okay.
And it was life-changing to me, honestly. And if you peel all the layers back from all the things that Jesus talked about, at the core of it, one of the things that is there is the importance of making others feel loved and safe. Really, that's what Jesus was doing when he came to bring the kingdom, was to bring back what God intended for all of humankind in the first place, right? So that's why God created us, was to have relationship. And he created us because he is community and he wanted that community.
Wow.
And then he created more humans, not just one human.
Right.
So we can enjoy that connection with each other. And so that's fundamental. Like that's the string through all of Jesus' teaching, is getting us back to understanding this is why God made us to be human. And so the greatest indicator of me being changed and transformed is the degree to which I actually love and care for other people.
And Jesus calls that loving your neighbor as yourself. Yeah. One of the things I sometimes get hung up on is like, it's actually a question I've seen in the Bible before too, is like, okay, Jesus, who's my neighbor? So Jeff, who's my neighbor? Who are our neighbors? I hear kids playing on the playground over here. There's construction workers over there. I have actual neighbors. There's people living around the world. Who am I supposed to be thinking about as my neighbor?
I think that's a great question. I think our neighbors start with the people that come our way, and they're just going to be a part of our everyday life just because we wake up and go through the day. So our family, our coworkers, people that we're just doing projects with at work. But I also think it's the people that we have to go out of our way to build a relationship with. Those are also our neighbors. And, in particular, people that we have to cross some social barriers to build a friendship with.
Right.
People who live in a different part of the city, socioeconomic barriers, maybe racial barriers that just tend to exist in our society. Yeah. And Jesus modeled crossing those racial barriers, and I think that's still true for us today.
How can we think about getting better at caring for and loving our neighbors?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that the first step is to commit to making a part of the conversation in the group. It just needs to be a part of the culture of any group that wants to follow Jesus, because if it's not, there's something missing. If we're not caring for people around us in the way Jesus taught us and showed us, we have a discipleship problem, right?
Yeah.
So let's solve that. Let's make it a part of our conversation. That's what Jesus did. He was just talking about it all the time with his followers.
Yeah.
And then I think a second step is to actually choose action. And every group's different. There are some groups that can decide on maybe a joint cause or one thing the group is going to rally around together. And you can find a pathway to invest in that in your community or work with a local partner. Some groups, that's not really an option because of the schedules and the life stages. And maybe that's something people and each person in the group can do on their own. And I have one more thing that I think is the foundation of it all, and it's just be close to Jesus. This is who Jesus is. Like, this is who God is, and it's what Jesus came to show us. It's the way that he taught us to live.
And I love that you bring up this idea of crossing barriers, and then you finish with being close to Jesus. And when I think about those two things, it makes me realize Jesus crossed barriers to love us.
Absolutely. Yep.
And if I was sitting in a life group, which I actually am in a life group and I lead a life group, I might be starting to feel some of the tensions and the barriers that we might need to cross. When Jeff said, if you're not talking about this, you might have a discipleship problem, I was like, oh, I got to go talk to my life group. And so if that's you, we're not gonna leave you hanging. In fact, we've worked with Jeff to develop a guide to help you do this. And we've actually asked Jeff if he would lead a brand new life group. And we're gonna go and see how that's going so far.
All right. I think you all know that we're here to talk a little bit about what does it actually mean in real life to do what Jesus has taught us and showed us to do, and that's care for people around us. Caring for our neighbors, the way we love people around us, is the biggest indicator of how transformed we've become. So we just want to dive into that and process that a little bit more. So let's start with this first question here. When Jesus talked about loving our neighbors, he said that we should love our neighbors as ourselves. So what do you all think that actually means?
I would say for me, really being a good neighbor is being there for a person. Like you said, we just have a new baby, 6 months old, and just the community that surrounded us and just cared for us in a time of need and sometimes desperation. It was amazing. And I think when I think about a neighbor, when I think about community, I think about just that, someone coming and helping through situations that I'm experiencing.
Yeah, I just think noticing needs, seeing them, meeting them. I just think about, when I was a kid, I grew up in a place that had a lot of snow, and so anytime there was a snowy day, we'd go out and shovel our driveway, and then my dad would make sure that there were some people on the street who were a little bit older, struggled to shovel, so we would go out and shovel their driveways too, and he would just know who those people were and know that needed to happen and would send us out to go do that.
Yeah, love that. That's such a great example. Yeah. Augustine?
Yeah. I think viewing the world as we interact with strangers all the time, but I think that viewing them as almost like friends you haven't met yet. And so interacting with people as if just knowing their name, of people that give you coffee every morning or that you see most often. And I think that offering simple as smiles or just conversations, and the world just feels less isolated.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Part of what I hear you all saying is that there's opportunities just every day, all the time, to care for people, to love our neighbors, as Jesus put it. One of the things we've done recently is just do a little bit of polling, just get feedback from across all of our Life.Church campuses, from many, many life groups, about what are the things that draw me in or that draw a group into going out of our way and actually investing in relationships that require crossing barriers. And what's interesting is we ended up with a list of 6 things that are really common. So let's talk about each of these. And as I do, I want you to think through which of these really get your attention, what kind of fires you up, and then let me know 1 or 2 that stand out to you and why. So the first one is local schools, just getting involved in so many opportunities where any of us who have kids are. Addiction recovery, which is also very multifaceted. Incarceration, so that includes caring for men and women who are incarcerated or who have recently gotten out of incarceration and they're trying to land on their feet. The next one on the list is homelessness and food insecurity, which really comes at us a lot. And then immigrants and refugees, building relationships, welcoming, helping immigrants and refugees become settled. And then the last is foster care and adoption, which again is so multifaceted. So of that list, which 1 or 2 really kind of grip you? If you were going to say, I'll go out of my way and invest in relationships in that space, which one would it be?
I would say for me, the first thing that popped in my head was foster care and adoption.
Awesome. That's good. What else?
I think 2 things: addiction recovery and then immigrants and refugees.
Really awesome. What else? Just keep talking.
I think the 2 that stood out to me, also foster care and adoption. And then another one is probably the homelessness and food insecurity. Like you mentioned when you were going through the list, I think that's one, at least in our area, that it is difficult to drive home without seeing someone who's experiencing homelessness or food insecurity.
Can see why this list got formed. I feel like those just touch so many areas of life. And I think all of those, I feel like a connection to each of those. The ones that jump out to me, first one is immigrants and refugees. And then also thinking of foster care and adoption. That's always been something that we're passionate about.
Yeah. Now, as all of you were sharing about the things that pique your interest or kind of come out of your experience that give you opportunities to care for our neighbors, go a little bit more into what are the hurdles, what are the fears, what are the questions maybe that have kept you from loving your neighbors, caring for your neighbors in the areas and the causes that you've described?
Yeah, I would say for me, just foster care and adoption as a whole, I think there's just a lot there, right? There's so many different agencies out there. There's so many different resources out there. It's like Google overload. It's kind of hard to understand And even if we didn't want to go full on board, but how can we make a small impact right now, even if we're not taking on a kid at this moment?
That information overload can be a bit paralyzing. That alone can keep us from actually taking action.
Right.
I'm going to be honest, it's fluctuating apathy. If it's not front of mind, then it's not something that I think about so actively.
Yep, I can really, really relate to that. So one of the things that I have been drawn to for quite a few years now is building friendships with men in particular who are incarcerated and they're about to get out of incarceration. That's so far removed from my day-to-day life. It's so easy just to continue on with life and care about that thing and think, I really wish that I could contribute in a meaningful way, but life just gets in the way.
Yeah.
It's not in front of you all the time.
Yeah.
For me, what I had to eventually do is actually make a commitment to serving as a volunteer with a local group that works on that particular issue. So then I was on the hook. Then it got added to my calendar.
Yeah.
Then it got into my schedule. I had to show up. Eventually then the relationship took over. It just became a part of my life. But the first step for me was actually I had to get into my schedule. Otherwise it would never be in front of my mind. What other thoughts are you thinking right now? Or feelings or questions about the barriers, the challenges?
I keep thinking back to a season of the podcast that we got to work on a few years ago where we looked at the 5 different mission areas, or our 5 key focuses, I think is what we call them. One of the key things that I took away from all of the conversations across that season was the importance of maintaining people's dignity as we're serving them and partnering with them and building a relationship with them. And so I think it's all of these really big thoughts all coming in at once with the heart to serve and to meet the needs of these neighbors, but not wanting to do it the wrong way and not wanting to do it in a way that ends up causing more hurt. I think those are some of the barriers or some of the thoughts that I have that then just feel so overwhelming that I don't know where to start in helping those neighbors.
Yep. So let's turn the corner now and talk about what we could do to overcome these hurdles. And we've touched on it a little bit already, but let's be real specific. What are the things that we could do to overcome these challenges?
I think sometimes it's easy to overthink things. We're responsible for like what God's given us in the moment to do. And so if we know that something's good to do, then we do it. Obviously, there's a balance of wisdom. We do want to not throw all thoughtfulness to the wind, but I do think that we do sometimes add unneeded steps.
It's good. What else? What else can we do?
Maybe just having conversations with people who are doing what you're wanting to get involved with. We have great resources and lots of people at our Life.Church locations who I could go and talk to this weekend and just have a conversation about, like, how did you get started? What does it look like? And asking some of those overwhelming questions to a real person and not Google.
One way that we can do that is through all the local partners that each of our campuses have. They have tons of opportunities to learn and get to know other people that are interested in a particular cause or an issue. And then what that has done for me is just helped me to be actually in proximity to people who are different than me, and then relationship forms. Yeah. And so I think that's a super practical step.
Yeah.
It just makes me think of how it can look different depending on the person you're caring for. Like Jesus, for some people, he built long-lasting friendships.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he helped someone in a moment and then never saw them again.
That's right.
Because that was, so.
Maybe the one thing that is important to draw out that was in common with those 2 moments is that he looked at those people with dignity. Yeah. He looked at them with value and care, even if the opportunity for long-term relationship wasn't there.
Absolutely.
What thoughts or feelings do you have about that part of this equation, that we all need each other? Even if I think I'm helping somebody, really we're equals and we need each other.
I think it goes back to what you were talking about, that mindset, right? One of our neighbors just had a little kid as well, about a month apart from us. And I think it's easy to get in that mindset of, okay, you guys are doing it all on your own. You guys figure it out. When the reality is we don't necessarily always need our family, but we have a neighbor right there next to us that are probably feeling the same struggles that we are. I don't want to place that burden on anyone else, but it's what can I gather and learn from this individual who's experiencing it right alongside with me.
Mm-hmm. Could we say then that part of loving our actual neighbors, the people that live around us or that we chat with when we get coffee, like us asking for their help is a way to love them. Like that's what love is. It's two-way, right?
Yeah.
God made us to need relationship, and asking them for what they can do for us is part of that relationship.
And sometimes that feels even more uncomfortable. Just this past week, my car battery died, and I was going to call one of my friends who lives across town to come and help me out. And my wife's like, why don't you just go knock on the neighbor's door? I'm like, oh, I can do that? Like, it's like, because sometimes that's that's one of the best ways to show dignity as we serve is by recognizing that they're a whole person who can provide a perspective to us that we didn't have. They can be a friend to us. We can learn from them.
And do you think that's also true for people who are very different than me? Facing different life challenges, live in a different part of the city. Like, do we also have something to gain from them?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
We have so much to learn from the people going through all the different things that they're going through, and conversations, and had that posture of learning perspective and what life is like.
As you were talking through, and as you were talking through as well, I think it's easy to bucket people. And here are these people who are experiencing this situation or who are experiencing this, and it's easy to get into the mentality of, well, I'm over here, like I'm living my life. And I think ultimately we need to get to this point where we break the barriers, right? Where we see people as just humans, and we are all struggling. We're all going through our own things, our own stresses, our own lives. And it's how can we help each other?
It's really good.
Yeah,
good stuff. Okay. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I'm really looking forward to seeing how we play this out, what next steps we take, which I don't know about you, but I know I can start doing today. But also have a little bit of a long-term in mind. Some of the things that maybe I want to learn about and commit to, it's going to take a little work. So it's both, and I'm excited to see how this plays out for all of us.
I love it.
I loved that the life group had such a great conversation about caring for their neighbors. And I loved how they talked specifically about the hurdles that prevent us from doing that well.
Yeah.
And when I think about some of the hurdles that have kept me from loving my neighbors well, I think for me, it's often this idea of I don't want to help in the wrong way. So then I just won't help at all.
Yeah.
And so I think what I'm learning from their conversation is it's okay if you do it wrong, and it's going to look different each time, because it's more about getting to know a person and making it about that relationship.
Yeah. And I think for me, a hurdle is thinking that I can come into a situation and sort of figure out what needs to be fixed. Like it's my job to like fix something as opposed to getting to know people and learning, and maybe just like asking a simple question like, how are you doing? Is there anything you need? Rather than trying to think I'm there to fix everything.
Yeah, so speaking of questions, Jeff has the guide that he led the life group through that you can find with your friends, your neighbors, your family, the people that you want to have these conversations with. And that's available in the description wherever you're listening.
Yep. And one of the questions on that guide is basically, what do you get fired up about? Like, what are those things that your heart gets passionate about that brings out angry Allie or
loud voice Jason?
Yeah, big voice Jason, whatever. And you're going to really have great conversation about that.
And you're going to want to keep watching for the rest of this season, because we're going to be talking about ways that you can get involved in specific causes like your local schools or addiction recovery or foster care and adoption or so many other great things that you can be part of.
Yeah, you and your group won't want to miss any of these conversations. Well, hopefully you're starting to connect to some of those things you're passionate about. And if you're beginning to want to know practical ways you can get started, you're going to want to check out our next episode.